Hello, I am Dr. Jigare Panchal, an occupational therapist. As I said before, this is the second part of femur fracture and the second and the final part. Thank you. So here in this slide, actually in this course, I will be talking about certain treatment options used in femur fracture. So there are conservative methods and surgical methods. I'll be talking in elaboration for this. So the methods are advocated if the patient is young, the conservative method basically, and in severely comminuted fracture, modified cast brace with pelvic band is used. Further, in the surgical method, if you see, this is preferred uh, treatment method for the adults, and in ORIF, that is open reduction internal fixation, is chosen for those fractures, which can be made stable by closed or open reduction. As you can see in the images which I have mentioned here on the right side, the colored images A and B, as in here you can see this thing, and the choice of implants is in different levels of the fracture is also in a different way. For example, the for internal fixation of the subtrochanter fractures, the choice is made from the spiral blade plate of for pathological or impending pathological subtrochanteric fractures. Proximal femoral nail is also used. PFN is called as. Also, DHS is not ideally suited, and dynamic condylar plate, that is condylar blade plate, and dynamic condylar screw are often useful options. Now, there are certain patterns of fractures and choice of implants. In that, if you see that in the pattern of fracture, for example, in low transverse fracture and short oblique fracture with 1 inch intact cortex, IM nailing or interlocking nail is used. In the fracture above this level without trochanteric extension, locking nail or Zackel or Zickel nail is used. Also, in fracture above this level with trochanteric extension, sliding compression hip screw, that is medial stability, is obtained by either compression of the intrafragment or medial displacement or valgus reduction. So fixed nail plate is not recommended. Both bone graft is being used in that cases. So there are certain different methods which have been incorporated in this form of thing. So this is just I'm giving you knowledge so you have an idea. Though we are not being going to conduct a surgery or anything like this, but it's good to have an idea that what kind of procedure is being done with the patient. Also, recent trends in the fixation of the pre-trochanteric and sub-trochanteric fractures is with the gamma nail and stable osteosynthesis of sub-trochanteric and uh, per trochanteric fracture femur is obtained independently of the fracture classification. This you can see in the image over here in the radiograph image on the bottom right side I have shown. So the patients can be mobilized immediately with this method. So patient you can mobilize immediately with this method because it's much stable compared to others. So however, care must be taken to avoid any kind of technical errors. But and also Russell Taylor reconstruction nail has greatly improved the fixation methods of subtrochanteric fracture. So this is how, because I'm telling this because if there is a this kind of operation is done and the other methods of fixation is done like gamma nail or is applied, so at that point you can actually ask the person to move around and to be and to means you can help the patient to ambulate easily in certain cases. Also so as so if you say in the Russell Taylor reconstruct nail which I just mentioned, so here it this has a proximal and distal interlocking screw fixation and is a closed nailing technique. Now there are certain fixation methods in nutshell. So for example, for subtrochanteric fractures, this is based on the Russell Taylor classification. So in type 1A, with intact piriformis fossa and lacer trochanter, standard interlocking IM nail is used. In type B, 1B, with piriformis fossa intact, lacer trochanter fracture, reconstruction IM nail is used. In type 2A, piriformis fracture, fossa fractures, but lacer trochanter is intact, so reconstruction nail or hip screw is used. Also in type 2B, both piriformis fossa and lacer trochanter fracture. So here same as in type 2A, but the bone graft along with hip screws. So that's how the things are being used over here in this surgical procedures. But here just I will like to comment about the fractures in the pediatric population, because the thing is as because I also just mentioned in the previous course that what happens with the individual who are younger in age and has this kind of femur fracture. So in them, in the surgical treatment, so doctors generally agree that displaced femur fracture that are shortened more than 3 centimeter are maybe not applicable and require treatment to correct at least a portion of the shortening. So in some more complicated injuries, so the doctor may need to surgically realign the bone and use an implant to stabilize the fracture, because as I mentioned before also in the course that to deal with the pediatric population is different as compared to deal with the adult population, because this adult may will mostly will obey your commands and follow the regime of immobilization, and they have a better capacity to take pain, but where compared to child they won't be that keen in maintaining or following the regime, and may be less sensitive to pain, maybe more sensitive to pain, sorry. So here doctors are uh, so, so as I mentioned, in some more complicated injuries the doctor will need to go in a surgical alignment. So further, if the doctors are treating pediatric thigh bone fractures more often with surgery than in previous years due to the benefits that have been recognized. So this include earlier mobilization, fast rehabilitation, and shorter time spent in hospital. So in the children between say 6 to 10 years old, so here flexible intermedullary is used, that is inside the bone nail, that is IM nail basically, are often used and to stabilize the fracture. So over the past decade that this treatment method has gained great acceptance. As you can see in this image at the center, so there the intramedullary nail is being placed. So here on the left image, if you see the center image in the left one image, if you see there is pre-operative X-ray of a child with a fracture through the mid shaft of the left femur. So on the right side you see there is post-operative X-ray of the same child, shows that the fracture was treated with internal flexible nailing to restore stability and allow early mobilization. So on that account, if you see occasionally the broken bone has too many pieces and cannot be treated successfully with flexible nails, and other portions that can lead to successful outcomes in this situation, maybe like a plate with screws that bridges the fracture segments, an external fixator that is often used if there has been a large open injury to the skin and muscles, and prolonged traction with a pin temporarily placed into the thigh bone. So and that's how things are being formed in this. And this you can see in the image, the external fixator, which is often used if there is a large open injury to the skin and muscles. So again the prolonged traction with the pin temporarily placed into the thigh bone. So these images you can see. And as the child nears the teenage years, that is 11 to skeletal maturity, the most common treatment choices include either flexible intermedullary nails or a rigid locked intermedullary nail. So the rigid nail is particularly useful when the fracture is unstable, and both types of nails allow for the child to begin walking immediately. Also, in long-term outcomes, if you see, so generally children who sustain a thigh bone fracture will heal well and regain normal function and have legs that are equal in length. Okay, so generally chances of limb length discrepancy will be lesser. So the intermedullary nails may need to be removed following healing if they cause irritation of the skin and tissue underneath. And occasionally, children will require further treatment either early on or in subsequent years. Say if they have a significant difference in length of the legs, unacceptable angulation of the heel bone, abnormal rotation of the heel bone, infection, or rarely if a thigh bone fracture persists, that is because of the non-union. And these problems can nearly always be resolved with the further treatment. So that's how this kind of fracture is being treated for the pediatric and other population. Further, we'll also talk about the other mechanisms and the surgical methods used in the adult population. So here, if we talk about the complications again, so I'll also discuss complication later in this slide as well itself. So just to name it out, that is malunion, non-union, secondary osteoarthritis of the hip, and contralateral hip and knee pain due to limb and altered weight bearing mechanism. So if you see that this is that malunion, this is a possibility with conservative treatment. Also shortening also occur, that is another complication. Then non-union, this is mainly for adults I'm showing. And the previous images in the slide which I showed was the pediatric population, the center images, and in here this right, this all the images correspond to the adult fracture, adult individuals, adult population having a femur fracture. So non-union due to soft tissue interposition and is relatively rare. Secondary osteoarthritis of the hip, contralateral hip and knee pain due to limb and altered weight bearing mechanism. There are also certain silent features about femur, that is just I like to describe certain facts about femur. If we say that it is the longest and strongest bone in the body, it is the heaviest bone. A person's height is 4 times the length of the femur, and it has the three parts basically: proximal and distal and shaft. So the shaft extends to the level of the lesser trochanter to the flare of the of the condyles. This I'm just explaining because when we talk about the surgical methods, it is important to know the orientation of the femur. So the shaft is slightly bowed anteriorly and is narrowest at the mid shaft. So the cross section is circular. Also, linea aspera is the thick ridge of the bone situated mid posterior. Muscle force acting on the femur at different sites, as it is shown in this image on the left, the colored image. That is the muscle force which I like to say, that is on the proximal third. If you talk about the proximal third, like that is iliopsoas flexes, abduct, and the external rotators cause abduction and external rotation of the proximal fragment, while adductors adduct the distal segment. That is on the proximal third. The middle third is there is a shortening and adduction. In distal third, that is the below image which I just shown in this, the colored bottom image. So this is flexed due to the action of the gastrocnemius muscle. Uh, and the blood supply of the shaft femur is rich and adequate, and thus the fracture in this area usually unites well. So here there's the what I mentioned, the muscle forces should be taken into consideration when someone is actually the planning for the treatment for the femur fracture, because this muscle actions is very much important to know its outcome as well. Also, it is important to understand the one joint and two joint muscle mechanism, because that also acts and informs us about the mechanism and action of the muscle and the movement of the limb. For example, you have rectus femoris, which crosses the hip and the knee and responsible for the hip flexion as well as knee extension. Sartorius, again, Taylor's position, which crosses hip and knee. So in that, it is responsible for hip flexion and knee flexion as well, with the abduction and internal rotation, lateral rotation basically, and not internal, it is lateral rotation. Also, it has the component so there is a lateral rotation. Also you have a tensor fasciolata which also crosses hip and knee, and which has again flexion of the knee and flexion of the hip, and also in lateral rotation with abduction. So here again that is it is a hair shake position. Here is flexion of the knee, of the hip, of the knee, and as well as there is internal rotation of the hip, not lateral. It is internal rotation in this tensor facial attack. In hamstrings also you have semi-tendinous, semi-membranous, and biceps femoris, which is acting again crossing the hip and knee, so helping for the knee for the hip extension and knee flexion. And the last you have gastrocnemius, which is crossing the knee and the ankle, and which is responsible for knee flexion as well as plantar flexion of the ankle. So this action and this course of muscles is important to understand to know the better outcome. Also in the surgical treatment, if we see the timing of the surgery, so most this is mainly I'm talking of the adult population. So most of the femur fractures are fixed within 24 to 48 hours. On occasion, fixation will be delayed until other life-threatening injuries or unstable medical conditions which are stabilized. So to reduce the risk of infection, open fractures are treated with antibiotic as soon as the patient arrives at the hospital, and the open wound tissues and the bone will be cleaned up during the surgery. So to avoid any kind of infections, because we in the previous because I have already discussed about previously about osteomyelitis and certain infections occurring in the implants as well, and which can be cause another complications and the problems for the individual and also for the doctors and the medical team. So for the time between the initial emergency care and the surgery, the doctor may place the leg either in the long leg splint or in traction. So this helps to keep the broken bone as an aligned as possible and to maintain the length of the leg. Also, the skeletal traction is a pulley system of weight and counterweights that hold the broken pieces of the bone together, and it keeps the leg straight and often helps to relieve pain. Also, external fixation in this, if you see, so in this type of operation, metal pins or screws are placed into the bone above and below the fracture sites. So the pins and screws are attached to the bar outside the skin. So this device is a stabilized frame that holds the bone in proper position. Also, external fixation is usually a temporary treatment of femur fractures because they are easily applied. External fixators are often put on when a patient has multiple injuries and is not yet ready for the longer surgery to fix the fracture. So an external fixator provides good temporary stability until the patient is healthy enough to the final surgery. And in some cases also an external fixator is left on until the femur is fully healed, but this is not common though. And here in the image if you see in the bottom, so there is external fixation is often used to hold the bones together temporarily when the skin and the muscle have been injured. And also for the intermedullary nailing, that is image on the right top. So here currently the method which the most surgeon use for the treatment of the femoral shaft fractures is IM nailing, that is intramedullary nailing. So during this procedure, specially designed metal rod is inserted into the canal of the femur, and the rod passes across the fracture to keep it in the position. So this is the image you see here. So there is intermedullary nailing provides a strong, stable, full length fixation. So here there is no chance of moving or running away of the metal of the bony fragment, the fractured fragment, the broken pieces. So it stays in a line, and because of the intermedullary nailing, it helps in better healing because that is aligned properly. It is like you break a piece of chalk, and when you fix it, you see if you don't fix it properly with proper grooves, it won't stay well. And if you break a chalk in a piece and hold it vertically, and on top of it you put the broken piece of the chalk, so if it is properly aligned as I mentioned, it won't fall. But if it is not properly grooved or properly fixed in its grooves, it will fall off. So this is how But over here in the chalk, so in the anything outer than the body you can stick it, but here you can't stick the bone like this. So that's why they have an intermediate nailing or certain external fixators or certain plates adjacent to the bone which are screwed, and because of that it holds the piece in particular alignment, and that helps to heal the fracture evenly. Also, an intermittent nail can be inserted into the canal either at the hip or at the knee level. So the screws are placed above and below the fracture to hold the leg in correct alignment while the bone heals. So intermedullary nails are usually made of titanium, and they come in a various length and diameters to fit most femur bones. So here in the X-ray image, if you see, so this is the X-ray taken from the side, which shows you the transverse fracture of the femur. Okay, that blue arrow which shows that, and also on the right side. So this is the front view X-ray on the right, on the just adjacent to it. So here it shows that the fracture has treated with intermedullary nailing. So this is how it is possible. You can see the proper alignment of the bony fragments. If properly fixed, then you cannot and move it, because if any kind of external force also cannot cause it any kind of issue. Okay, so further also during this operation in plates and screws, so the bone fragments are first repositioned, reduced into their normal alignment, and they are held together with the screws and metal plates attached to the outer surface of the bone. So the plates and the screws are often used when intramedullary nailing may not be possible. Okay, so when intramedullary nailing, and there is lots of fractures, commuted fractures, when you cannot put the nail inside, so that the plates are being used. When IM nailing fails, the plates and screws are used, and such as the for the fractures extended into the either into the hip or the knee. For that also IM, I mean the plates and the screws are used. Also, as we also need to take care about certain kind of complications which are taking, like acute compartment syndrome and open fracture exposed, and also certain complications of infections, injury to the nerves and bones, blood clots, fat embolism, malalignment or inability to correct position of the broken bone fragments, then delayed or non-union or hardware irritation. So this is there are certain which I will also discussing later, but this is there are certain complications which I like to list out and for you to understand better things to take care. Also, see, we as an OT, we need to treat the patient not only in ADL, that is the first priority. He should be taking his ADL independently and taking care and doing whatever he can do in bed, outside the bed, in transfers. We should avoid the falls. Also, we have to take care of his recovery with the function. ADL and all will be considering it as in a functional outcome. Whether we will take in a improvement or a healing way. And the third thing also we'll take care is the avoiding the complication or dealing with the complications of the femur fracture or any kind of condition. So that is how we treat the individual in certain way. Also, I'll be continuing the topic in the further courses about we will be talking about the recovery and complications. We will be also talking about further mechanism of the injury, because and also certain clinical features, and about the femoral I mean the same about the femoral fractures in further manner. Also certain gallows fraction which is used in children under the age of 2 years, and treatment methods about different ages, which I just briefly described previously also, but I'll be talking further also in the other courses of the class. But here it is important to know this fact about the to know about the muscle actions and the two joint muscles acting near the limb when there is such fracture in the big muscles, where in the big bone, where lots of muscles are oriented around it, so that we need to understand the actions of it, and accordingly we treat the patient and ask them to do certain activities which help them to recover better. Thank you.